We saw it during the Enron and WorldCom scandals, when major public companies artificially pumped up their earnings, disguised their losses, and otherwise engaged in accounting fraud to make their profits look better, a practice that ultimately led investors to question the balance sheets of all companies. And we cannot help but see some reflection of these practices when we look at the subprime mortgage fiasco that's taking place today. Subprime lending started off as a good idea, helping Americans buy homes who previously couldn't afford to. Subprime lending started off as a good idea, helping Americans buy homes who previously couldn't afford to.
Fannie Mae itself has had a program since 1994 to invest $1 trillion in targeted lending aimed at those who were not able to get mortgages in the past in urban areas, racial minorities.
The problem is that they encouraged very bad mortgages to be made by banks and other institutions because Fannie and Freddie would buy them.
Eventually, they bought trillions of dollars worth of mortgages, a substantial portion of them based on poor credit, then resold many of them to financial institutions who thought they were safe because the federal government was behind them.
Financial institutions created new financial instruments that could securitize these loans, slice them into finer and finer risk categories, and spread them out among investors and around the country as well as around the world. In theory, this should have allowed mortgage lending to be less risky and more diversified.
And so shaky mortgages spread throughout the system. But in 2005, the Senate Banking Committee, then chaired by Republican Richard Shelby, tried to rein in the two organizations by passing some strong new regulations.
Senator John McCain co-sponsored legislation pushing for regulation, delivering a speech on the Senate floor in 2006. Quote, "For years I have been concerned about the regulatory structure that governs Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. And the sheer magnitude of these companies and the role they play in the housing market, the GSEs need to be reformed without delay."
Which would have prevented Fannie and Freddie from acquiring these bad mortgages. It actually gave a new regulator for Fannie and Freddie the kinds of powers that a bank regulator had.
All the Republicans voted for it. All the Democrats, including the current chairman, Senator Chris Dodd, voted against it.
Subprime lending started off as a good idea, helping Americans buy homes who previously couldn't afford to.